Recently I spent time in Spain studying with renowned classical guitar maker José Romanillos. During the course, I was invited to his house, where I was able to ask José questions about his life as a luthier. Throughout our evening of conversation, not only was I able to learn many things about guitar building, but also about José as a person, and what drives his passion to not only build guitars, but to share that knowledge with others. My intent with this video is to share with others what I learned that evening with José and his wife Marian. I hope you enjoy it and appreciate the information that José is offering here.
So I'm in Spain in a small town called Gijosa, which is near the medieval town of Sigüenza. And for the past 2 weeks I have been participating in the traditional Spanish guitar making course with Maestro José Romanillos. And I have asked him if he would sit down with me and allow me to ask him a few personal questions. And he has very graciously accepted my offer. And so I would like to personally say thank you, first of all, for doing that. My first question is, what attracted you to lutherie?
To go to England. Well, I was, this is 1956, I think it was, and I wanted to learn, I wanted to go out of Spain, because in Spain it was claustrophobic and it were on the, tight political environment with the Franco, and I was studying to become a civil servant, and I did learn sort of typing and a little bit of calligraphy, writing quickly. And then a friend of mine who was in the Spanish medical center suggested that the English people, the authorities, they wanted nurses to go to. And anyway, I saw the chance to travel, and we arranged everything. I got a contract to go to a mental hospital, and I went there with the idea of learning English and a little bit of, and that was it. I worked in a mental hospital for 3.5 years, and that's where I didn't meet Marian on that one, but then I moved to London to another one, and that's where I met Marian, and that's how we got attached to each other. And a year and so after, we got married, and we made our home in London. So, and that was the beginning of my career of guitar making. As 2 years after we married, I was missing Spain, and I missed flamenco, and I felt very nostalgic, so I decided to look a little bit for the roots, as we call. And I thought it'd be nice to try and to play flamenco, which I love flamenco. But I had to get an instrument, and of course we didn't have money to buy an instrument. And my father and mother were coming for a visit to us, and I asked my father if he could bring one. And the poor man came without any guitar, because he didn't know what guitar to pick. Besides, I didn't have any money to buy. So when they left, after a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, I asked myself, well, why don't I make myself a guitar? And that question and what it followed after, it just changed my life. I mean, that is really... well, I didn't know anything about guitar. I didn't know absolutely anything. And the first thing I did was to go to the local library, and lucky enough I found a small book that it had been published 3 or 4 years before. Is the Make Your Own Spanish Guitar. But I can't remember the author at the moment, but I went there, I made plans and wrote here and there. And then I decided to make the guitar, and I had a fight to find wood, ebony, and just about everything. And in order to have a bench, we live in a two-room sort of terrace house in the sort of north part of London, and I had to make a kitchen table strong enough to do as a bench. And I was working as a cabinet maker at that time, and one of the finest guitar making sort of places in London. It was the work for the Commons, you know, for the Parliament, and so with a little bit of help from the machines that they work in there, and I set out to make the guitar, and it took, so I don't know, but I think it took 6 months probably
to make the first guitar.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember a few things about it, but now when I think about it, I don't really how I could make a guitar. I didn't have a vise. I don't know what type of vise I used. I didn't know they had the ordinary tool, a plane, a few chisels, but I did make it actually. And I remember I had some suffering at that time.
Do you still have the instrument? The first one?
No, it's a shame. I sold it. I tell you what happened. I just anyway. I finished the instrument, and when I tuned it up, my surprise that he produced a kind of musical sound. It was a revelation, you know. And then I asked myself the question: well, how could I, knowing nothing about this, gluing a few pieces of wood together, could I make some sound?
Right.
And that question, trying to answer that question, I'm still here trying to do it.
50 years later, right?
Yeah. And that was it. Then I decided to investigate, and I started going to library looking for books. I became a member of the British Library, which is and that's how my career as a guitar maker started. One day I got home, we tried to sell that instrument for, I think it was £15, wasn't it, Marian?
Yeah.
And in those times in England, the little sort of agent shops where they sell newspaper,
Right.
they had a little place to put your advertising guitar for sale. And I think he was there for about 6 months. When I was coming from work, I heard guitar music. I opened the door and I found a gentleman there playing the guitar. I didn't know him or anything, and he was a friend, or a friend of ours, a Spanish friend of ours, that he told him that somewhere a Spanish chap was making a Spanish guitar.
Right.
So he was one of the teachers from the school, founded by John Williams' father, which is, what is it called, Spanish?
Len Williams. Len Williams.
Lem Williams, his name was Lem Williams, the father of John Williams. And he played, I remember they played the Testament Lamelia, is the first piece I heard. It's, and he said, well, I'll buy it. He says it's like a battleship, but I'll buy it. So I'll give you £18. Well, £18 was 2 weeks' wages at that time. Wow. My God. I saw myself in money all of a sudden. And he said to me, well, okay, but next time if you make one, you have to use roast wood and this and that, and he pointed out the woods. And so that's how the whole thing started. And after I decided to continue, and after that I made 2 more, I think. with rosewood and a few other things. And he bought them as well, and he paid me 50 pounds each.
Oh.
I was just at her. And one day he kept on asking me, because he was a teacher in there. And so I made, when we lived in Falkland Road, I think probably 6 or 8 in the course of a couple of years. And that's how it started. And then we decided to go to Madrid, because I thought the Spanish regime was getting better and missing the country, the family. But we decided and came and lived in Spain for 3.5 years, I think. And I continue making guitars as well. And
So we could almost compare that to Antonio de Torres. If your first epic was in England, your second epic was
we could.
Spain.
I mean, the same years, the birthplace was Almeria, and he had to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, what we did, and then we came back. He came to Almeria, and I came to Spain, actually, eventually. And that's after 3.5 years, I wasn't happy here. I mean, we found that it would be difficult to educate 3 children.
Right. So
we decided to go back, and as fate had it, we went to live about 15-20 miles away from Julian Breen lived. That is actually. I had met Bream in the Wigmore Hall 2 or 3 years before he went to Spain for the first time, and I told him, I met him in the aisle of the Wigmore Hall, and I presented myself as a guitar maker. I had made
How many had you made at that time?
2 or 3. It's very rare of me. I don't know how he did it because I'm very shy too, you know. And he was so kind to say, he gave me the telephone number. He was interested. I wrote it. I still got the program. It was a John Williams concert, and I wrote the telephone number in the program. And he said, well, I can't, I'm not available because I had to go abroad to play, but call me in a few weeks, he said. And that is when we came back to Spain. And when we went back, we ended up near where he lived, I say 20. And I continue making guitars. I work as a carpenter. And one day Marian saw a photograph of a lute maker in the neighborhood. And she's I would say a divine angel, because I said, well, if they put a photo of the lute maker, I'm going to send one of you. That's simple as that.
All right.
He sent a photo, and the local journalist came and make a little interview. And then after a while, a musician came. There was a musician in the orchestra. He said, well, could you make a guitar for me? And that's how the thing started.
Interesting. Well, my next question is, was there a moment where you woke up and said, I think I will become a guitar builder? Or did it just happen?
It just happened. I was impelled by something to do it.
Right.
It's not that I love what I was doing. I mean, I like to work with my hands, and we kept on selling this guitar because Fred James, the one who bought mine, we came in touch, and he used to come and buy the guitar for. I think he paid £50 as well at that time, and he was selling them to the pupils and. And when this friend ordered the first guitar, he said to me, well, Julian Breen lives very near here. We had to go and see him. You had to go and see him. And well, Marian is present. I said, well, I don't want to go and see Breen. And he said, well, okay, I'm going to arrange an appointment with him, and we're going together.
Right.
And we did. And I showed one of my guitars, and Brim played a little bit.
So Julian Breen played your guitar?
He played for a while, and then he asked me if I was going to make 4 or more. And I said, yes. In fact, I was making 4 at that time. Mm-hmm. I think it's only twice in my life I think I made a group of 4, and that was one of them. So he said, well, when you finish them, perhaps you'd like to. So eventually when that happened, well, I took them to him, and he kept one for a month or so, and then he wrote a letter because he was, David Rubio.
Yes.
Well, he set a workshop for David Rubio. Mm-hmm. And after a few months, I think they didn't hit it off when Rubio left, and then he let that workshop be used by a harpsichord maker,
right.
Michael Johnson, a friend of mine. And he said, well, if you want to, you could come and work in the workshop.
Wow.
And he said, I remember he said that, but of course, I cannot be responsible for you if you don't make it. And I said, well, at some time I got the right word, and I said, you give me the opportunity to do it, the decision is mine. So if I fail, it'll be up to me, not up to you. Right. That was it. And I started, I think when I went to the first day or two, he ordered 2 guitars. I think he gave me a deposit of, was it 80 pounds one day.
Right.
And then a couple of weeks later, he brought the other 80 pounds. And what I did, I went and spent it all on wood. I didn't have much wood. And well, Marian had to go through all this anyway. And we started the business with £5. That's all we had in the pocket, yeah. But as it happened, I made 4 guitars, so not 2. And one of them liked it. And he played, I think he took it to the States and played, and you know what happened, somebody asked him and then there was a shop in Bristol called the Spanish Guitar Center, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And then they got interested in my guitars, and that's how it was. I didn't have any training at all, or any
on-the-job training.
Nothing.
Right.
I had to work very hard. I had to think, read. I read quite a bit, well, that's how we started actually. And that was in 1970, wasn't it? Yeah.
Jose has just shared with us about how he got his start as a luthier. In part 2 of my evening with Romanillos, he discusses his passion for the Spanish guitar and his dream of creating a cultural center for teaching the history, building, and restoration of this wonderful instrument.